Let's expand upon the profile component. We want to include a profile image, of course. Let's blow up the name as well as the follower count, and then we'll also add a list of their genres. Before we do so, however, we can shorten the above if statement with a ternary expression. Let's simply check the artist as not null, and if it isn't, we'll set it to this.props.artist. Otherwise, we'll have it as the artist itself. And we can shorten it even further by taking out this whole object and placing it with the artist over here. But I feel like that one line would be way too long, and it actually looks simpler with these two lines over here. Now we'll handle having a profile image. So once again, let's look up a user or an artist. Bruno Mars. We can see one of their profile images by going to images in the first object and the URL. We want to always follow the pattern that they provide for you in the JSON object, so that way it's simpler because that's a pattern that we're using. So images is an array, and then it has objects, so we'll initialize an empty object here, and then we have a URL, which is now empty. So now we can take advantage of that by having an image over here with a regular image HTML or JSX tag. Images in JSX always have an alternate in case there is no provided image. Our alternate will be profile. We're going to give it a class name so that we can give it some styling later of profile image. And then our source will be artist.images and the 0th object in its URL. So let's save. Let's look up Bruno Mars again. And there's a giant image of Bruno Mars. So obviously we still need to add some styling to this. However, let's move on to creating the genres component. Now, the genres acts as an array. It's a list. So somehow I'll have to map over the genres array to show each genre item within it. So genres, as you can see, is an array. So let's declare an empty array within our initial object here. And then we'll have to map over these genres with the map function. So luckily, JavaScript ships with the map function for arrays that allows us to map over it. For now, we'll simply map over each genre with an anonymous arrow function, and then we'll wrap each genre within a span JSX tag to see what it looks like. Genres is not defined. That's because we want artist genres. So let's look up someone else, the Beatles. There's a giant picture of them again. And the reason it's not showing up right now is that we forgot to even return the JSX. So just like the render method needs to return the JSX, the map function also needs to return the JSX, as queued by this error right here, expected to return a value in this function. So as we save, let's try the Beatles again. Awesome. Here you can see all of their genres, not neat looking yet. And here we have a warning. Each child in an array or iterator should have a unique key property. So they're expecting each key or each span tag to have a certain property. However, we can't necessarily know that all these genres are unique, so we can't have the genre as just genre, however. But luckily, the map function comes with the section optional argument of the index. And we can name this anything we want. You can name it index, key, or A. We'll just call it K for short, and they'll have the key as K. We'll save. It reloads. Let's look up the Beatles once more. And there we go. That warning goes away. Now, we obviously want some spacing in between here, and we probably want some commas too. However, we don't want a comma to appear at the end of the list, so we can't just do a space and a comma here in order to fix it. We're going to need to use a ternary expression to check if the genre is not the last item within the array, because if it isn't, we're going to add a comma. However, if it is, we won't add a comma. We'll just add a space. So we'll say genre equals, and we'll check if the genre is not the last one in the list. So we'll find the last index value We're finding the last index value by simply looking at the length minus 1, which will always be the last index value. So if it's not the last index value, we'll add a space with the genre. Here comes our template string and a comma. Otherwise, we'll simply have an and statement for our last one and the genre itself. And let's see what that looks like. So genres is not defined. Once again, we want artist.genres and artist.genres here. So let's look up the Beatles. And the genres are actually looking pretty nice. So let's add some styling to this whole thing. Let's go ahead and wrap all this text information within a separate div. And we'll name this div profile info. Let's give each of these class names as well. So this one will be profile name. This one will be profile followers. And this one will be profile genres. Profile. And now we can start tackling the CSS. So let's add a new section for profile, and I press Command/ to do that automatic commenting. Our profile image, the first thing we're going to do is add a display of flex. For our styling, we're going to take advantage of flex. It allows us to assign portions of the screen to certain elements so that they can expand in relation to each other based on their flex numbers and concern of different device sizes and shapes. It also allows for very simple alignment in terms of axes controlled by the justify content property and align items property respectively, so it's really easy to center things. So let's see how flex works when we change the profile. So we have a display of flex. We're going to justify content everything to the center. Our profile image, of course, is way too big, but we can fix that by assigning a width and a height, and we'll make it 150 pixels for now. I also like giving things a border to make them stand out. This is a personal preference of mine, but you can go ahead and use a different one. We'll make it white or a hexadecimal equivalent, which is FFF. And the border radius, since I want it to be a circle, will be exactly half of the width and the height, so 75 pixels. And then we'll make its object fit to cover, so that way it looks nice as an image. So we'll have the Beatles. And look at that. It's already starting to look really nice. We just need to blow up this text over here. Let's change up the profile name. We'll make its font size bigger and increase to 26 pixels. Also the profile followers. I want it to have a decent font size. Not as big as a name, but still significant. Let's say 18 pixels. As well as the genres will have a size of 18 pixels. So make sure I spell things right. And profile genres. There we go. That's already looking a lot better. The last thing I want to do is basically center all this profile info a little better. So we're going to go to the profile info tag. So as I'm opening the profile info, we'll simply give it a margin left of 10 pixels because we're going to text align everything to the left and we don't want it touching the profile. And that's looking nice. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure this says followers. Just looks like a random number for now. So we'll say followers over here. And once again, let's look up the Beatles. And cool, we have a very good looking profile for now. Let's move on.